Alright, gents, this is 03 Bullseye. I've been asked to give a video on the basics reloading from A to Z. I'll try to make it as fast as I can. I'll try to weed out some of the junk, and just to get you the basics from beginning to end. This is for a beginner. I'm going to leave out, all the neck sizing stuff, all of the the competition stuff. But anyhow, I've been reloading now for about 30 years, and seen a lot of advancements between then and now. Spent 8 years on the Marine Corps shooting team, and that's where I learned a whole lot of the reloading, because I was on the competition shooting team. So anyhow, I'm just going to start with a 35 Remington for a lever action rifle, and I'm just going to quickly run through it here and try to make this as fast as I can on the video, but still give you everything that you need to know. So first of all, first thing you're going to do is you're going to tumble all of your brass. I use a stainless steel pin tumbler for my initial tumble, and on an initial tumble with stainless steel, it's going to come out almost brand spanking new. And next thing you do after you tumble and dry it, naturally I bake mine in the oven at 250 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes. But I take my brass, I just dump it into a pan. Some people use a Ziploc bag, I've seen people use a bucket, doesn't make any difference. Next thing you're going to do after you've tumble cleaned them and they're all clean, you're going to take a mixture of, I mix this up between liquid lanolin. I use 1 ounce of it. I use 12 ounces of iso heat, which is the red bottle isopropyl alcohol that you get out of the automotive section. So 12 ounces of iso heat to 1 ounce lanolin. Shake it up, mix it up real good. Give it a couple of sprays. Shake them all around real good. Give it another couple sprays, and then that's all you do. Good enough. I do use loading blocks, but on the initial stages, when I first get everything going, I do everything in these trays because I am doing bulk. I don't mess around with 50 here and 100 here. When I load them, I'm doing 200 to 2,000, at a time. So we're going to do 300 of these 35 Remingtons, and that's going to last a good while in my lever actions. I've got 3 35s that worked out real well. So next thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure your die is set properly. This is a sizing die, so you want to make sure you got the right sizing die. I've already got mine kind of preset. I'm going to put an extra torque on it here. You want it to cam over when it comes up and touches. You want it to be able to where it will still give just a little bit of a cam over, just like that. And so anyhow, that's where the top is just touching the base of the sizing die. And normally you're going to let your brass dry out for possibly 2 minutes, because what you're doing is you're letting the alcohol evaporate dry off of this, and it's going to leave a thin layer of liquid lanolin on it. So it's probably already, I can feel that it's already evaporated off. You're going to come in here with a sizing die, a stroke up, let it cam over all the way, come back down, it pops the primer out, comes down, and it's now sized. You're going to do this on a single stage, and you're going to do it until you've got all 300 of them done. This is a full length sizer, which for lever actions, bolt action rifles is good to go. If you're doing a semi-automatic rifle, you want to use a small base sizing die, and I'll go over that in another video. But just make certain that you keep everything separated, well, and we'll go to loading blocks once we get to that stage. Okay, that completes a few hundred rounds of the 35 that I have sized. At this point now, we're going to take the sizing die out, put it to the side. It's now time to trim these. So on trimming these, we're going to use a machine setup over here. It's called, I'm using an RCBS trimmer, but need you to keep in mind, a lot of these are manually operated. I've taken the manual arm off. I've put on a rotary drill, but basically you set this to the trim length that you want to use, and basically I use a drill. I run it in and out, pop them out. It's time consuming. I'm not going to go through the whole process on this because it is a time consuming process. It's a pain in the butt, honestly. But anyhow, these are new cases. I'm not going to trim all of these because they are new. A lot of people would say, hey, why are you sizing them if they're new cases? Well, you don't have to size them if they're new. However, I find that I want uniformity, and because in the future when I go to shoot these, they're going to be sized, so I just want to make certain that the first batch that I'm running are sized, because it's going to match all the future batches as well. So we've cleaned them, we've lubed them, we've sized them. We're going to say we've trimmed them even though I'm not trimming them. And now we're going to go to the priming stages. On the priming stages, we're using just CCI large rifle primers, nothing special. And I'm just using a regular RCBS pad, nothing special. We're going to pull them out like this, dump them in here, flip it over. When you flip it over, they're going to be both directions, right side up and upside down. You shake this a few times. When you shake it, it makes them all how you want them to be. And got one out right there. There we go. Once they're all right side up, put the lid on, flip it over like that. It's exactly where you want it to be. You take your rod and you just go through and just start picking them up like so. So I'm going to shut the camera down so you don't have to see me pick up 100 of these. There's 100 to a pack. Most primers nowadays are running anywhere between 3 cents and 4 cents, 3.5 cents, somewhere in there. So anyhow, I'll shut it down and we'll get started back here in just a second. Now that I have the primer tube totally filled with 100 primers, we're going to insert it into the RCBS single stage primer. It has a little flip lever right here. It's hard to see. I'm going to use with my finger, but basically we're going to put casing in here. We're going to pull up on the casing. We're going to snatch up the primer there, push it inside, lower it down, give it a little snug push, and primer is now in there. You can see it there. I run my finger over it, make sure it's the right length. See if I can move you over here to where maybe you can see it just a little bit better. But run it in here, up, back down, seat the primer, back out, done. You can get really rock and roll moving with this thing once you get good with it. Some people use a hand primer, and that's fine too. Some people swear that it gives you a better feel, but I find this works just fine for me on rifle cartridges. I've got a hand primer. I rarely use it, but you know, this is all single stage loading, so every stage, you know, takes time. You know, I have a Dillon 550 right behind the camera that if I were using it, everything would be a little bit quicker, but I typically use it for handgun ammunition. I don't use it for any of my rifle, you know, stuff. So anyhow, I'll do a few hundred of these and I'll come right back at you. Okay, we have just now finished putting primers in a few hundred of these. As you can see, I've got them now put into the loading blocks. We're going to get rid of this primer tube because it'll poke your eye out if you're not careful. We're going to make sure that we always put our cotter key back in here so we don't lose it. So we're going to retire this for now, primer tube, and now we're getting ready to drop the powder. Now when we go to do this powder drop, There are so many different ways that you can do it. And as you can see, I am going to use a digital scale here. I'm not going to use the beam scale. I use it as a backup. Every now and then I use it just to test my digital scale to make sure that it's not off or calculating, wrong. You want to make certain that your cell phone is nowhere near this vicinity, because it will mess with your digital scale and give you some bad readings. So I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to let it get zeroed out. We're going to take the powder and we're going to dump it into our powder hopper here. If I was loading my long range ammo, and long range to me is anything over 200 yards, so if I'm shooting between 300 and 1,000 yards, then I'm going to be hand trickling with this device every round, through all of them. And to hand trickle, you would put some powder inside your trickler here, just for the beginners that don't know. But you put some powder in there. We're going to make sure this is sealed up good. Hand trickle, you would come in here, you would take your powder tray, and you come in here, trying to get all this in motion. Give it a jiggle left and right, make sure that the entire hopper in there fills up properly. You come back down, you come over, you get a measurement on your scale. We're reading at 35.6. I want to be at 40.5. You could come in here and have this to where the powder will drop it at like half of a grain, half of a tenth under what you need, and then you take this trickler and you trickle it like this, and you're going to see it just trickles out, just little tiny bits that you can't see it. It's trickling right now. You can't see it by the naked eye. And you would do that until you come up to the magic number you're going to use. That is the ultimate accurate way of getting long range ammo. However, we're shooting lever action ammo here. Because we're shooting lever action ammo, I'm talking 250 yards max is all that I'll be shooting this rifle lever. With that being said, I'm not going to use a trickler. So I'm literally just going to take my trickler and I'm dumping the powder back in the hopper. I don't need it. I'm not going to trickle for this. We're going to get this thing to where it's going to load real close to where we need to be, and we're going to do that by adjusting the back nut here. I'm going to open it up because the magic number I'm looking for this Hodgson's Lever Revolution powder that I'm using, the magic number I'm looking for right now is 40.5. 40.5 works well for me for whatever reason. I've done a lot of chronographic testing. There I'm at 38, so I'm going to dump it right back in there. We're going to open it up a little bit more, and we're going to keep doing this. I'm going to lock it back down until I get 40.5 exactly is what I'm looking for. Now this is ball powder I'm using, and ball powder meters well, and meters well means it comes out of here real well without hanging up, whereas stick powder or cylindrical powder crunches and breaks it off as it goes. So that was 39. I need to open it up just a little bit more here, and we're going to keep doing this until we get exactly where we need to be, and that's at 40.1. We're going to go a hair more. So ball powder comes through here in meters real well, whereas your stick powder crunches, does not. So I'm going to keep messing with this till I get it exactly where I need to be. I don't want to waste your time on camera. Stand by. Okay, we now have our scale set up to where we're right at 40.5 on the powder throw. We are now going to start dumping our powder. And to throw our powder here, we're just going to go like this. That one is now done. Voila. Easy as that. And when I come up with this, I always go left, right, 2 taps. I go down and I go left, right, 2 taps. And that knocks any loose pieces out of there and gives me an accurate reading every time. Now, people say, well, why wouldn't you just go on and do that with your high power loads for your long range stuff? Because this might drop 40.4 one time, it might drop 40.6, a tenth on either side of where I want to be. So it's not as accurate as trickling it out and getting it exactly right. So again, on my lever actions, short range, medium range, this is good enough for me, okay? So you can get rocking and rolling through here and get a rhythm going, and as long as nothing breaks or goes down, you're going to be in good shape. Now if I were doing my long range, I'd be doing a lot of things differently, you know, as well. To give you an idea, on my long range ammo, to do 100 rounds, it takes me 10 hours. At least it did when we were on the Marine Corps shooting team. Whenever we would do our CMP, you know, matches, it would take 10 hours to do, you know, 100 rounds. Whereas here, you know, we can get 100 rounds done in about an hour per se, something like that. So anyways, I will not bore you with all 300 of these that we're going to do. So we'll come back after I get them all dropped. So here we are again. I've successfully gotten all the powder dropped. I've done 100 casings for right now, and I kind of stopped, and we're going to go and start loading some of these because I don't have enough loading blocks to do, you know, all 300. So I've got 100 casings dropped, and let me explain real quick what we're doing. So I'm trying to mimic the Hornady factory ammunition in feet per second. So I chronographed the factory ammo through my rifles, and it was 2,124 feet per second, 2124, and that's pretty fast. That's smoking fast for a 35 caliber 200 grain FTX bullet. So I pulled one of their bullets out with a collet puller, and I weighed the factory powder, and it came to 38.7 grains of the mystery powder. We don't know. What did they use? You would think that they used, you know, the same Hornady Lever Revolution. However, at 38.7 grains, in their book, says it would only do 1,950 feet per second. So none of it adds up. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but all I know is I'm trying to accomplish and get 2,124 feet per second out of this. So I've shot several different powders. I really like the Winchester 748 powder, and the 748 seems to be doing real well at 40.5 grains. It gets me at 2095 feet per second with a cartridge overall length, coal length of 2.50 inches. But excuse me, we're now using, I'm doing the Lever Revolution, and I'm going to use the same 40.5, and I think that's going to get me really close at 2100 off of some testing that I've done. But what they're putting in there, the powder, I don't know. It's a mystery powder. If anybody knows, put it in the comments. I'd like to find out. So I've got 40.5 in all of these. We're going to try to get close to that 2100 feet per second. And now we're getting ready to put the projectiles in. To do so, we've put the bullet cedar die in the press. We have adjusted it so that it's going to crimp and seat at the same time. We've put it to what the book says, where you screw it down till it touches the mouth of the casing. You back it off slightly. You put the bullet length to where it's almost where it's supposed to be, and then you screw the whole thing down. And we're getting our cartridge overall length at about 2.495-ish, right in there. With a flex tip bullet, it's really hard to get an exact measurement since it does squeeze just slightly down. But you can see there, you know, we're right at about 2.496 maybe, so, right close. So anyhow, the rest is all easy. It's basically putting the casing in, hold the bullet in, feed it in. It's going to seat and crimp at the same time, and we're just going to keep doing this and doing this. Now, keep in mind, throughout this entire process that we've been going, these casings have just a little bit of a stickiness to them. Now, some people, immediately after they size, are going to clean those. And some people will put them in a corn cob or walnut hull media tumbler to clean that off. Some people's going to take, you know, WD-40, you know, and a rag, and they're going to sit there and clean them one by one by one. But, you know, when I'm doing 200 and 300 and 400 or 1,000 of these at a time, I'm not doing these one by one. So I'm going to do something that's going to freak a lot of people out, and a lot of people are not going to like this, and they're going to bash me in the comment section, I'm sure. But I'm going to take my completed cartridges, and I've done this for years, and we're going to dump them into the walnut hull tumbler, vibratory tumbler, and we're going to tumble them. And people are going to say, oh no, you can't tumble a live round, it's going to go off. No, it's not going to go off. And then some people are going to say, well, if you're using a stick powder or a cylindrical powder, and you tumble, it's going to break that stick down to where it's a finer powder. It's going to increase the pressure inside of the casing, you know, blah, 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 blah. Listen, I'm not tumbling these things overnight, okay, like you would empty casings. I'm tumbling these things for like 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, just long enough for it to knock off the stickiness on the outside of the case. That is it, okay? So people are going to still bash me. People are still going to talk about it, say you can't tumble live loaded cartridges, but I've done it for years. It works. Just don't get crazy and leave it in there for an extended period of time. So we're going to go ahead and do the rest of these right now. So basically now we have all of the rounds loaded, as you can see, and we are, because they still have a little bit of case lube on them, which is basically the liquid lanolin, we're going to tumble these in a vibratory tumbler, and I'm not going to use my stainless steel pen tumbler that I have over there. It just takes too long and it's wet, and we're not going to mix water with our live primers. So we're going to put a little shot of Brasso in here, just about a tablespoon. We're going to let those go for about maybe 1 minute, maybe a minute and a half, not very long, and pull them out, and then they should be cleaned off altogether. It's been about 1 minute. We're going to take them out. Dump them in there. And then put them back in the box, and then we're going to be good to go. That is it. Some people will ask, why did we crimp these, you know? And the reason we crimped them in one of those last steps during the bullet seating process was, in a semi-automatic or a tube feed firearm like a lever action, I'm going to go and crimp them, just because these are going to be facing nose to tail in a tube and a lever action. That's why I want them crimped. Semi-automatic, because they're being forcefully put in there so fast, I want to have them crimped. In a bolt action gun, I won't crimp them. In a precision shooting gun, a lot of times I still won't crimp them. So anyhow, that is the entire process, beginning to end. I didn't get into any neck turning, inside outside neck turning. I didn't get into, you know, neck sizing only. You know, I didn't get into competition type stuff. So, you know, seating off of the lands and all that stuff. So that's more of an in-depth video that I'll do at another time. If you want to see the multi-stage, you know, I've got another video on the Dillon that shows, you know, how fast you can, you know, pump out rounds. But I wanted to do a single stage video. And I've had a lot of people ask about just beginner videos, you know, so that's why I did that. So if you have any comments, leave it in the section below. Thanks.